You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, welcome. Another episode of 91 Reasons. I am the voice. I am Jeff Tucker. All right, we have a weird episode. Normally, I give a lot of preamble, stuff that I talk about, business. But since this is the third episode this week, following over two solid hours of the career of Winona Ryder, I thought we'd like a thin mint, like sorbet between meals, between dishes. We're going to cleanse our palate with a very unusual episode. And it's unusual in that for over a dozen episodes now, you've been hearing only me and occasionally some music and stuff on the show, but not another voice. Not since the Comic-Con wrap-up show have we heard another voice. So this episode, I have two very special guests here. I have my son, Austin.
Hello.
How old are you?
14.
14. And my son, Luke. How are you?
Hi.
How old are you, sir?
17.
And they're going to walk us through an internet phenomenon that most people are probably not even aware of. But let me tell you, this thing is actually very big. It's very underground. It's one of those things like, you ever have a band that you like you find this dusty old cassette in the bargain bin and you listen to it and you're like, oh my God, this is great. And I'm the only one listening to it. So it's the coolest thing ever. Like I remember listening to the Proclaimers back in the late 80s and thinking like this twin guys from Scotland, and I don't understand half of what they're saying, but I really like the music. And then all of a sudden they got featured in Benny and June with 500 Miles, and then everybody knew who they were. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. It's this weird underground phenomenon that's big at cons. If you've ever been to any kind of convention, and if you're listening to this show, you probably have been to at least one, or you want to go to one, you will see or you will have seen a strange group of cosplayers. And it's weird because a lot of cosplayers, you can readily identify who they are and what they're dressed as. You're like, okay, Thor, Captain America, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. And then some of them are a little less identifiable, like, oh, you're pinup Harley Quinn, and you're Khaleesi from Game of Thrones if she worked at Starbucks. Oh, that's great. What a mashup. Nice. And then on the bottom, and I'm only saying bottom because they're fringe. They're fringe, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
They're fringe. They're these kids, and it's mostly kids. You don't see any adults. And they've got gray skin, and they're wearing horns on their head, and the horns are candy corn colored, and they have horoscope pictures on their T-shirts. And for a long time, it's like, what are these people? And there's only a few of them. But at conventions now, like we were just at Kamikaze. How many were at Kamikaze?
Oh, hundreds.
Over 100.
Over 100 at least.
And they are dressed as Homestuck characters. What the heck is Homestuck, you're asking? What the heck is Homestuck? I'm asking, and I'm the host. So I have two experts here. These guys have written down. Okay, Homestuck is... You jump in here when I'm wrong here. Okay. Homestuck is a webcomic.
An interactive webcomic.
An interactive webcomic written solely by a guy named Andrew Hussey.
Yes.
And it's uploaded to the internet, and it's free to read and interact and solve the puzzles. And just now it's becoming mainstream in that companies are picking up and making merchandise. Like there's a Homestuck T-shirt at Hot Topic, right? Yeah. It's the shirt that if you ask the employees, can I have that one? And they go, what's that? It's like, well, if you took that nose ring out or put that nose ring out of your ear, you might be able to hear me. So, okay, Luke, tell me in a nutshell, what is Homestuck?
Oh, God. How do you do it so, in a nutshell?
It doesn't have to be a nutshell. Just come in here and tell me what it is. Like, okay, how did you discover it?
Through my friends who had read it. It's one of those things where it's not really advertised anymore. You just have to know someone to get in with it.
You have to know someone to get. So
Yeah,
you wouldn't
spreads
see
through word of mouth.
So there's no banner ad on eBay that's like, "Ooh, Homestuck, click here."
No,
not even on Etsy.
None of that.
Okay. All right. So how many pages currently? Because Homestuck is this thing like it's not a singular project; it's a living, breathing thing that continues, and it's different all the time. How many pages is it currently?
Counting all of the continuity, it's at over 9,000 pages. And
Wait. 9,000. Now, what constitutes a page?
anything from a picture to a moving GIF to a flash game that takes 1 to 3 hours to complete.
And over how many thousand?
9,000.
Now, you've read every single page.
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Can you recite the preamble to the Constitution of the United States?
No.
But you know you've read 9,000 pages of Homestuck.
Yes.
We're all doomed.
I can tell you page numbers of certain events.
All right, so tell me, what is the plot of Homestuck? Because to me it sounds like Shia LaBeouf in Disturbia. He's stuck at home, and there's a murderer next door.
4 kids get a video game that allows them to interact with the real world, and it, through thousands of pages, ends up with alternate dimensions and timelines and something to do with creating a universe. We don't know yet. We're still waiting for the end.
You're still waiting for it to end.
Yes.
So it's kind of like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings saga.
Yeah. He says the author says there's only about 1,000 more pages to go, but he also said that back in 2010.
And how many pages have there been since then?
About 6,000 since then.
So it's never going to end.
No.
And now Andrew Hussey, the guy who creates this, he's kind of a strange guy. Like we met him at Comic-Con 2 years back. What's he like?
He has conflicting personalities. Online, he's like this huge troll who just messes with people. He talks to fans, and then you meet him in real life, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Andrew Hussey."
So he's a typical internet guy.
Yeah.
He's brave behind a keyboard, but get him out in the open, he's like, the sun. So he just sits around and does this Homestuck. Okay, you have to explain a little bit more. Like, okay, how does the Homestuck open?
It opens with a young man standing in his bedroom.
On his birthday.
It's his birthday, the 13th of April, 2009.
All right.
And he gets Suburb Beta in the mail, which is this video game he's been waiting for. And it takes 2,000 pages for him to turn it on. He just messes around his house.
Wait. There's 2,000 pages before the plot kicks in.
Yes.
You're joking.
Well, if that's what you want to count as the plot kicking in. Some people...
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Some people want to count the aliens coming in as the plot. That's 3,000 pages. Others say it's not till every character is introduced, and that's 6,000 pages.
Okay, so I get that. My question would be then, why... Okay, you start reading it and nothing happens for 2,000 pages.
Oh, no.
Why would you read it?
Everything happens in 2,000 pages.
What happens before he plays the game?
The way he writes it is that he uploads it in bits and pieces of like 5 or 6 pages at a time. So every update is written in a way that it's entertaining. So it's like a cliffhanger. Every 5 pages, something big happens, or there's an important dialogue or something.
Okay, that sounds like a Robert Langdon book. That's every chapter of the Da Vinci Code. Like, bum, 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 the worst is going to happen.
Yeah.
So
The worst always happens.
what's a typical cliffhanger? Like, oh, we're out of butter.
Usually it's an off-screen character they're looking at, or a small death of one of the main characters.
What's a small death?
Usually it's a stab through the chest.
But death is death.
No. These. How many times has John died? I think we're up to 6.
Yeah, I think we're at 6 now.
I think we're at 6, something like that.
And who is John?
He's the main character. He's the young man.
John who?
Egbert.
John Egbert is the main character.
Most of the names were user submitted. His name was almost Clint Newton by like 3 nanoseconds.
Okay, see, this is interesting. But on a base level, why do you enjoy this thing? To me, it sounds bizarre. Okay, I'm old school. I like the 30, 60, 30. 30 pages, this is a screenplay. 30 pages, you know everything. 30 pages, you meet the characters. 60 pages, you get them up a tree and you throw rocks at them. 30 pages, you get them out of a tree. That's basic plotting. this doesn't seem to follow any of that.
It sort of fits that in each of the 6 acts. It kind of follows that structure.
Yeah, but you're talking about each
over and over again.
But you're talking about each act being 1,000 pages.
Yes.
Well, act
That rivals even Shakespeare in length and duration. Like, that just sounds crazy. How do you read it? You've read all of this.
Yes.
Why? Why?
Yes.
Because it's good.
It's good. Yes.
But is it good because it's good, or is it good because as you're reading it, you're like, I'm in the club. I'm the only one reading this. Because I know there's something to that.
There is something to that, but the actual comic is good. The fandom interpretation of almost everything in it is completely different from the comic. If you get stuck, you'll read it in about a month, and then stick in the fandom for a few months looking at their interpretations of the characters. Then you look back at the comic, and it's nothing the same. So, those are two distinct things, liking the comic and liking the people.
But let me ask you this, though, then. Is he doing that on purpose? Is it deliberately vague to invite interpretation, or is that just what you've done to it?
Whatever he
and he being Andrew Hussey.
Yes. He made it vague, then we made characterizations. Okay. And then he made fun of those characterizations.
So let me ask you this. Does Homestuck represent, like, the next level of entertainment for your generation, in so much as it's a property that's put out there with a storyline, but in such a way that you, the users, get to read it, offer your opinions on what's being said, and then the creator himself can morph that and take fan fiction and make it part of the reality of the show.
Yeah.
And that's appealing to you.
Yeah.
It's not like when George Lucas says, well, this is my vision, and you can't have the original visions of Star Wars because I've changed. Hussey is the anti-Lucas.
He's the anti-Lucas.
He's listening to you, the fan, and putting
our stuff in the comic.
and that's why that makes sense to me.
Yes.
Because you're a generation raised on video games and multiple doors. I mean, and not side scrollers where it's like jump here, jump here. We're talking like multiple option video games where you can free roam and walk around. And this is kind of the literary version of that, right?
Yes. The reason you can't really leave the fandom if you wanted to is because you want something to show that you were there and you read it. So you keep making these dumb comics and jokes, and every now and then he puts one in the comic, so you want to be one of the people to be in it.
Okay, see, that encourages an active fan base.
Yes.
Okay, so speaking of fan base, if Luke, you're the guy who reads it and enjoys it, Austin is the guy who reads it and wants to be part of it. Because, dear listeners, as he's sitting here, he is wearing candy corn horns and a wreath of flowers, and he has embraced the Homestuck as a lifestyle option. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what does that mean to you? Why, like, okay, I can describe my experiences of watching Back to the Future and wanting to, liking the movie so much that I wanted to be part of it. And it killed me that Hill Valley wasn't a real place. Like, I wanted to get in the car and go to Hill Valley. That's why we go to Pointing Hills Mall. That's why we drove in the valley to see Marty's house. That's why I snuck into Universal to, be a part of it. So you get to take Homestuck, which is pure fiction. There's no live action to it at all, right? And you're dressing up all the time as it.
Yes. In one panel of one page, there's a picture of a cosplayer. Used as one of the characters.
So is that like your hero?
He's the Dave Spite.
He's Dave Spite.
He doesn't do much in the fandom anymore. That was his one shining moment.
Yeah, but it's like his cosplay was in the comic. He is Dave Spite now.
So he represents the fandom.
Yeah.
Well, what is the fandom, Austin? Explain to me, what do you get out of wearing this getup? Because you wear the horns, the wreath, the flower, the Zodiac shirt, the jacket, the gloves. Like, you want to be this character, and I don't understand. Help me understand why you want to do that.
The Homestuck fandom is more than just people liking a thing. It's like a family. Like, when two Homestucks find each other in public, it turns into a conversation. It's not like when two people walk by with a Batman t-shirt, no words are really exchanged. But when two people walk by in Homestuck shorts, it's like, oh my god, you like Homestuck, that weird underground thing I'm obsessed with. I meet so many people I walk by, and they're just like, oh my god, that's a Homestuck shirt. You're like the horns and everything. It's such an underground thing, and it's such a big deal to find someone. Of course, now it's spread a lot bigger. Especially, because we're getting to the point now, in next March, it's been 2 years since I've read the comic. And it's grown so much bigger now.
Yeah, well, I would agree. Like, having a shirt at Hot Topic is kind of like you've arrived. Because it's weird. Now, not to do on a side note, but 91 Reasons, we do a lot of side streets. We're driving somewhere, but we do a lot of stops along the way. Isn't it strange that when your mom and I went to Hot Topic, it was to get the latest music gear. The only place to get Morrissey and Smith shirts, other than a convention or a really tiny, dirty shop somewhere where they, like, your mom and I used to go to a store in Bellflower where they wouldn't even let you in the door. They lock the door like those, what are they called? Dutch doors, where just the bottom locks and the top swings out. And you walk up to the door and point at what you wanted. And they'd go, well, let me see if I have that. But I know you have it because I'm pointing at it. Well, let's see if it's for sale. And now we're at a point where Hot Topic has transformed from all about the music. And they do have a few music shirts, but it's really become geek central. And I say that in the most loving way as a geek myself, because the whole front of the store is Deadpool, Let It Go, Frozen, and tons of Doctor Who stuff, and what am I missing? Attack on Titan, Minecraft, Batman, My Little Pony. Like, I haven't mentioned any rock bands in that, and that's all you see there. That's all you see in the shop. And when you look up on the racks and you see, like, Breakfast Club t-shirt, Attack on Titan t-shirt, Adventure Time t-shirt, and then Homestuck t-shirt, like, that means you've arrived. You're part of it. And let me ask you, like, would you be excited if you went to Hot Topic and the whole front of the store was Homestuck?
Yes, because the merchandise. Okay, over a year ago when I first read the comic and I went to go see the merchandise after I had read it and become part of the fandom obsessed with it, they did not have much at all. They had a few books. They had whiteboards that you could draw on. And you're saying
they, like, across the board, not Hot Topic, just they.
I'm referring to Hussey's small company, What Pumpkin. It was...
What Pumpkin?
What Pumpkin?
Is there a reason behind that name?
It's a reference to the very first very second panel on MSPA, MS Paint Adventures, where the comic is stored, which is Hussey's older comic, Jailbreak, which he started on a forum. It wasn't even on the site. It was on a forum. And it was a guy, a pumpkin, and a key, and you're in a jail cell. And the first thing anyone said to do was have the guy get the pumpkin. And the next page, the pumpkin was gone. And Hussey said, hey, what pumpkin? And now it's his multi-billion-dollar company.
What Pumpkin?
What Pumpkin?
Yeah. Okay, all right.
And I remember going on the website, and all they really have is was a few books, whiteboards to draw on, and American Apparel t-shirts where he printed zodiacs on them. And they were practically, like, hand-ordered by him. They weren't officially made t-shirts. And now here we are. Now you can literally go to Hot Topic and get a t-shirt. And if you go on What Pumpkin, they now have plushies, action figures, stickers, lunch boxes. Like, he mentioned on his blog that there was going to be at one point an Andrew Hussey corporate sellout. I thought this was going to be a joke, but it really happened. He really...
But is that... Do you consider that a sellout? Or do you consider, like, look, he knows everybody likes this, everybody wants it, so why not make it available?
Yeah, that's really what it is.
It's kind of both. Last we heard, he's quit all of his jobs or anything. He just writes this comic.
He's embraced it fully.
Yeah, it's all he does.
But let me ask you this. Not that long ago, you would sit at a table with clay and make horns all day, trying to make the perfect set of troll horns, which you did. And it was like watching Arthur forge Excalibur from the fire, right? And what happened to that most precious headband of horns?
I bought the official plus
No. What happened to the original ones?
Oh, I left...
You left them where?
At the Toys R Us bathroom.
Oh, no.
And some guy, like, imagine Arthur sets down Excalibur and goes to get coffee, right? And when he comes back, some guy's like, oh, yeah, I put that in the trash. Like, that's what happened. Doesn't that suck?
Yes.
But we're talking about what used to be a rite of passage for the is there a name for the Homestuck? I almost said Homestuckians.
Sometimes it's Homestucks. That's it. Just
Homestucks.
Well, sometimes it's Homestuckians.
So was it a rite of passage for the Homestucks to make their horns, or now is it like, look, we love fine. We love fine, not wheel of fine like I thought it was forever. They sell the horns. You walk up and you're like, I want the horns. You got the horns.
They only have half of them right now, but yes.
But then they just sell them.
They just sell them.
You don't have to make them anymore.
$15 and they ship them right to your house.
Because you know, I spent years, literally years, looking for the perfect Marty McFly vest. And now that they make what's that? Ben Cooper. Rubies. Does Rubies make a Marty McFly? They make some of these things, and they're the cheapest, ugliest things ever. And I would just look at somebody wearing that and going, you're not a real fan, because a real fan would have found the right vest, and not just any jean jacket, but the jean jacket that has the gray inserts, right? Remember when I found that jacket? I was like, oh my, it's a woman's jacket. I was like, I don't care. I'm wearing it. It's my Marty McFly. So, you're wearing the made horns, but I guess that's got to feel like awesome, official, like it's official.
Horns have, due to the release, have sort of lost their status symbol. Normally you'd see a pair of horns in the crowd, and you're like, there's a huge major Homestuck fan over there. Now you're like, oh, someone stopped by the Wheel of Fine booth.
You're like,
keep looking.
Right, it used to be like, oh my gosh, he hath forged those four horns with his own two hands. He had wrought them from the clay, and now it's like, oh yeah, aisle 12B. Over there, aisle 12B.
And now that they're so readily available, there's even people popping up wearing horns that aren't Homestucks.
Why?
They look cool.
They look cool.
They do? I mean, they do. They do. But if your mom started wearing these horns, would you be like, awesome? Or would you be like, Ma, you're not a Homestuck. You're not a Homestuck. What would you do? Because I'll be honest, this listening to us talk is the most she's ever known about this thing, and me too. I'm including myself in that too, because I'm telling you, it's one of those things I don't understand, I don't get. There are a million of things I don't like. At this point, I'm sure there will be a change later in my life when I have more time to sit down. I don't get the Doctor Who thing. I don't get it. And that's not to say. Oh, your mom wants to chime in here. You have to get up on the mic. You can't just sit there with your arm. Hold on. My wife is sitting over there steaming. No. She has candy corn colored steam coming out of her head in the shape of horns. Get up on here.
I'm just saying that although I don't know the entire story or have read the 9,000 pages, I have made many a set of horns for my sons. I painted many Zodiac t-shirts. And at WonderCon, not this year but the year before, me and my best friend Teresa wore Homestuck Mom shirts.
Kamikaze.
Oh,
Kamikaze.
We wore Homestuck
because
shirts.
Folks at WonderCon, we all wear 6-key t-shirts to promote our book, which are available on Amazon in both a beautiful paperback version and only 99 cents for a Kindle download. But if you're a member of Amazon Prime, they are free.
And the horns. I wore the horns in public for the entire day because that's the kind of mom I am.
Now, what do you think as the mom now, if you've ever been to Kamikaze, it's at the LA Convention Center, and upstairs they have a Starbucks and the convention, and then in the middle they have where people stand around and all the cosplayers are like, look at me, and I'm like, look, I'm looking, okay, I'm looking. And then if you take the escalator down, there's a little dank pit full of Homestucks. I don't know how they claimed it, but it's as if there's a Andrew Hussey flag in the middle of this area where all the Homestucks lounge about. What did you think? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think, and then you tell me what you think. Because what I saw was the bee girl from the Blind Melon video suddenly seeing the land of bees where everybody's dressed as her, and it's like, all I can say is that my life is pretty. And then there they are. And then I'm like, all of a sudden, my dorky sons in their candy corn horns are suddenly then I'm the outsider. I'm the guy. They're looking at me like, hey, what's he doing here? He looks he's normal. He's weird. Get him out.
Non-stuck is the official term.
Oh, crap. I'm a non-stuck.
I just want to say one more thing, and then I'll go sit down. But I have to say that this group of kids, ranging from age 10 to 19, is the most hardcore group of kids. is the most polite and well-behaved kids I've ever hung out with. They don't know you, and it doesn't matter. If you have those horns on, they run up and hug you like you're their long-lost best friend.
You and Paul the family.
And you feel like you're part of the family. And I know my kids are safe and going to be loved and are free to roam in that pit and that convention without me being concerned in any way. It's really something to witness. And Austin, who used to have major Asperger's issues, changed because of Homestuck. I truly believe it gave him a social outlet and a social life that he's never had. He is a social person now because of Homestuck. And I mean, that alone, as a mother, to watch your child who had a problem speaking to anybody in public or anyone he didn't know, float across the room and hug someone like he's known them their whole life and have a conversation is an amazing thing to witness.
So what is that, Austin?
I don't know. I mean, Homestuck is something to talk about.
Well, that's when I did my convention episode, and I implored anybody who was listening who hadn't been to a convention to go to one, simply because everybody goes sort of wearing their flag of choice. Their house sigil, their banner, right? And it's like, this is what I like. What do you like? And you can, in an instant, have a rapport with somebody. You like that thing? I like that thing. Yeah. We like that thing together.
And then a conversation starts, and you become friends.
Yeah, your mom and I rode a pedicab in San Diego from the Holiday Inn to the convention center. It was like 2 miles. We shared it with a strange guy from Australia. And he had come to the convention alone. Around the world he had come. He didn't know anybody. He was utterly alone. He said he'd made more friends at that convention than a lifetime at home. Doesn't that... I mean, God, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm like, I want to go to a con right now.
Yeah.
Like, you guys here...
We live for cons.
Oh, you took the words out of my mouth.
We live
Talk
for
about
cons.
That. Talk about Comic-Con 2013, because that was kind of like the big moment of Homestuck, right?
Yeah.
Because Andrew Hussey and What Pumpkin decided to take this weird hotel right across from the con and turn it into what is basically a Homestuck Central. They set up a Homestuck shop there. They had a big banner.
Because of Namco.
Yeah, because of Namco. Because of Namco Games.
What Pumpkin made a deal to make a Namco dating simulator with Homestuck characters in it in return for publishing their game, which they never did because the whole company got destroyed. Namco's subdivision was completely destroyed.
And it was basically, like, any time of the con during the day, you could go up there, and there'd be about 50 Homestucks, and they'd all start talking to you, and you could talk to them. It was, like, the ultimate Homestuck area.
Yeah, what was interesting to me about that, and we were there quite a bit because, A, it was fun. There were free video games, free arcade games. They were all set to free, which I was like, you got to be kidding me. And there were great giveaways. Remember, it was a really nice set of giveaways. And what's interesting was usually Comic-Con is... I compare it to, when the family is running to the plane in Home Alone, dun, 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 and they're running to the plane, right? That's what Comic-Con is like every second. It's like, faster, no. Well, this is something I like. No, keep going. We got to see everything. Run. We've got to go. There's a million things to see. And this was the first year where I was like, where are you guys going? They're like, well, we're going back to Namco Plaza.
Shifty look.
Shifty look, because everything we want is up there. And it was weird, like, again, there's that B-girl mentality of we go up there and everybody's wearing horns. And, Austin, you were dressed as somebody called the Aimless Renegade. Explain your costume of the... This is a Homestuck character called the Aimless Renegade.
10 pages.
Well, that's that. But see, in any fandom, that's called, like, I'm going to pick the most obscure character. Because then when I walk around in this costume... only the fans are going to know who I am. And even the like, it can't even be somebody who just casually knows what Homestuck is. Like, when you dress up as somebody from Doctor Who that's really obscure, you're saying to the world, look, if you don't know what this is, I ain't for you. And was that the Aimless Renegade?
Yeah, he is basically a police officer who gets exiled and stranded on a destroyed Earth from the future. And when he does so... his police cop uniform is destroyed, so he wears caution tape. He, like, wraps caution tape.
Yellow caution tape.
Like a mummy. And that's what he wears.
Yes, so I sat in my own Homestuck moment of triumph and made this costume for you, this big helmet and everything, right? And I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand. And like Luke letting go of the controls on the X-Wing, I let go. And I let you wear this thing. And do you know what my payment for making that costume was?
What?
You know what I'm going to say?
What?
It was the guy who walked up to you and he said, I am just so happy that you exist.
Oh, the signless cosplay.
Yes, he just looked at
Jesus.
he just stared at you like, I can't effing believe somebody is dressed as that character. You know, like remember at Kamikaze when I saw that guy dressed as Griff from 2015?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he's dressed as Griff. Like that made me so happy. And that guy, you made him so happy because you were dressed as this ridiculous. Like everybody, if you go out on the street, everybody's like, "Oh, Lady Gaga's brother," you know. But up there at Shifty Look, this guy was just, oh man. Like you know what he looked like? He looked like when two characters are stranded in a boat, and the other guy looks up and sees just like a big hot dog. That's what you look like. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Now we met all those people up at Shifty. How long were we at Shifty Look? Like all day, right?
All day, every
We
day.
stood 2 hours in line to get Hussey's autograph with them. Remember that? We did like a sing-along.
Heck yeah, I remember it. I got a lot of money for that guy's autograph. I let you guys
cards.
I let you guys get all you needed, and then see, folks, how we as a family pay for Comic-Con is we go and we spend more money than we should because when we get home, I sell off all the extras to pay for the trip. So Comic-Con usually is a break even, which is amazing considering how much stuff we get. Like the last 2 years, I've gotten the Gentle Giant 12-inch Star Wars figure. I got Blue Snaggletooth. I got Yak Face. Didn't get the alien this year that I really wanted, but 600 Gentle Giant, really? 450, 600? Are you crazy? That's not. I could get an original one for that, but that's how we pay for it. So we go through the line, and you guys get your autographs, and it's like a crowning moment for you. I'm right behind, and it's a crowning moment for me because I'm going to pay for all the stuff you guys just bought. Now you bothered those not Shifty Look, but the What Pumpkin people.
Oh yeah.
All
Yeah,
day,
all
right?
day.
So
We
much.
went-
Go ahead, Austin.
Oh, so much that at the end, we waited to the end. We were standing there as they dismantled the What Pumpkin booth. All the Homestucks had cleared out this booth at this point, and the booth was just being dismantled. And they came and handed Luke the sample poster they
This
were
is the
using.
sample print from the table. It was a little
Yeah.
scratched up because it was on the table all day. Yeah.
And that's, kids, why you always stay to the end. Because the work guy also handed me a, 10-foot high Pac-Man vinyl banner. He's like, hey, man, you like this kind of crap? And I was like, absolutely I do, sir. He goes, well, this is like going in the trash. And I was like, it's going in my car. And I sold that the next day for $75, which paid for like 2 meals down there. Thank you, City of San Diego. The food sucks. Anyways, so Shifty Look. And again, piggybacking on what your mom said, they were the nicest group of kids we'd ever seen. You guys went off to lunch with them without us. For the first time ever, we're just like, you guys are going. Tell us about that because you're already smiling. And tell us about, as they lean into the microphone, and they tell us about that magical, magical place called IHOP.
Yeah.
IHOP Stuck. You can look up on YouTube IHOP Stuck 2014, and you'll see us at the IHOP.
Yeah. It happens almost every year. Even this year, even though we didn't go to the Homestuck meetup, and it was kind of small because Shifty Look wasn't there. They were just in a crowded area in the park. We went to IHOP just to eat at IHOP because it was the cheapest option in San Diego. And we were getting up to leave and all the Homestuck spawns dead. And I'm like, oh my god, this is exactly what last year was like. But being there with IHOP was so amazing because you sit with like 20 different Homestucks, and we took up the whole restaurant because it was an IHOP Express. We took every table. The managers had to literally push all the tables together. We drove one customer out only.
Only drove one out.
That poor guy's like, look, I'm allergic to candy corn. I can't be here. I gotta
It
leave.
was some old lady in like a business suit, and she said, "I'm leaving." And
Did she give you that Marx Brothers like,
Yes.
my word?
Yes. But The IHOP people didn't complain because they had about 30 people eating at once, all paying for this really expensive meal. And it was so nice because you could talk about the comic, you hung out. We had like a drawing with notepad that everyone passed around and drew a little Homestuck.
The most
drawings.
memorable thing I remember is there's mobster characters in the comic. They're pretty big characters. They're from an intermission in the comic, not the main comic until later. No one ever cosplays them. It's hard to find because they're not cosplayable characters very well. But we did have two of the Blues Brothers who posed as our mobsters for the day. and Stan with his Zilly-hoo, which is this hammer that's like 6 feet tall.
So Jake and Elwood Blues were there.
Yeah.
But you morphed them into somebody else.
They were the Jack Noir and Diamonds Droog.
And they're like, look, we just came for chicken strips and pancakes, but we'll go ahead and do this with you.
No, they did show up to the meetup. They knew it, sort of.
Yeah, they followed us afterwards.
Is that one of those moments where they're like, look, I'm dressed as a... Well, yeah. I'm a Homestuck. That's right, Homestuck. Yeah. Okay, so that was the great IHOP event of 2013
We went IHOP twice.
and 2014.
Well, no.
No.
No, twice in 2013. We went for dinner, too. We
Lot
came
of
back.
So you were stuck twice in IHOP stuck.
In the
Yes.
same day. There was like a 3-hour break between the IHOP trips.
Did you get indigestion? Because that sounds like a terrible way to eat.
I think I only ate the second time.
But in the years since, you've actually told me that those chicken strips at IHOP were the best you've ever had on the planet.
Yes.
And you guys are connoisseurs of chicken strips. Why are they so good? Are they good because they were good, or are they good because they're flavored with that amazing
The
moment?
Homestuck.
flavor.
I can't go to IHOP without thinking about Homestuck and
Rub
cons.
sauce seasoning.
See, like a song takes you back. These chicken strips are like, oh my god, 2013. It tastes like
Feels
2013.
Like Hankery and Miss Payne are getting married all over again.
So you're doing references that nobody has any idea what you're talking
There's
about.
about 6 people in the world who will get that reference.
But here's the thing. When I put this episode on iTunes with the Homestuck name and Homestuck keywords, they're all going to listen. So it could this arguably be the first Homestuck themed podcast, or do they have one?
I don't know.
They don't.
If you
I
had
haven't
one,
heard of
you'd
one.
listen.
Yeah.
But they
Normally,
don't.
the Reddit keeps track of any time it's mentioned in a news article or a YouTube. I've never heard of a
But
podcast
how
before.
come there's no, like, Skyacast podcasts?
There was Skynet News Radio, and they only aired music. They only did newscasts once or twice and stopped. It wasn't a reoccurring thing.
But like Night Vale has nothing to do with Homestuck, right?
a lot of the same fans are into both.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's
They're
no,
peripherally connected.
but the actual
not-
two licenses have never been connected.
Two totally
There's no
different
references
things.
from either one to either one.
No.
It's
But
just
like Hussey likes Ryan North, who was at the booth
Yes.
that sold Night Vale.
yes.
Is that
So-
right? Like they're all...
Topatico is the original maker of Homestuck merchandise before he had the funds to set up Wet Pumpkin. But Topatico has now moved on to Night Vale as their main fandom.
And let's talk about Mr. Hussey's ability to fund things. Now see, I'm a guy who works 40 plus hours a week, and I do this podcast on my day off. And this is the third podcast this week, so I'm on a roll this week. But I don't have a lot of time to do this, and I certainly don't have a lot of money, because if I did, we wouldn't be on this Adam Levine Maroon 5 microphone from Target. Okay? Where does Mr. Hussey get his money from?
Well, the actual comic costs nothing to produce other than when he's commissioning outside artists for special pages. The actual comic is done in Photoshop at his house.
But it has to be stored somewhere. These episodes for
He-
91
he-
Reasons
he-
don't cost
he
anything,
has
but I
one-
pay Podomatic to store them.
The server issue is a whole thing of its own. It's been crazy. It started off as just a little server from Team Special Olympics, his old webcomics, and he's now on some of the most high-end servers available.
You have to. If you're talking about how many people listen, the bandwidth must be huge, because I'm just one guy.
He had to stop making the comic for a year because no one could read it. So he just stopped making it until it was
he
done.
broke the internet.
He broke the internet. He's broken his own site almost every update. He's broken new grounds, and he's caused crashes on DeviantArt, Google, Twitter, all that stuff.
Now, see, I would love to have those problems. Because as it is now, like people have heard before, I can only do, at this point, because I've gotten people pledging on Patreon to give me a little more money to do this show, I'm probably going to be able to do 50 or 60 episodes before I run so far out of room that the next upgrade is hundreds of dollars to keep storage of all these episodes. So, and I'm just one guy, and I get just a few downloads. Like, the download numbers are good, but they're not hussy good.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a fan base of except, half a dozen guys who are like, yeah, Tucker guy's cool. Now, I'm thankful for those guys because they're listening. But I can't imagine what it costs for that kind of bandwidth, because even my piddly little show, they give me a certain number of bandwidth a month, and I do get close to maxing out. So I can't imagine what it would be like having to fight with some company to store everything on some server somewhere.
He keeps most of that stuff behind the scenes, so we'd have to go into older stuff. He said most of the server is paid for by the advertising on it, and most of his income and food is on the merchandise.
But where did he get that influx of cash to start this whole thing? Because, hey, I could get, I could advertise on a bunch of sites and get all this, but I get the initial seed money has to come from somewhere, and you know where I'm going with this.
I know exactly. You can actually track the moment Homestuck went mainstream, and it was the same day that the first plusies were announced. This is where he got all the money so that the next July that he could do the big Comic-Con Sifty Look thing. We had to hop a year back to 2012 before we'd even read the comic. Right after Comic-Con 2012, he started a Homestuck Kickstarter for a Homestuck adventure video game. It was supposed to be a small 2D adventure game similar to the ones you see in the comic, where it would just mostly be text. He wanted to raise $700,000 at most to make this small game.
How much?
700,000.
700.
He met that goal in a weekend.
Uh-huh.
And by the end, which was only a month-long Kickstarter.
Yeah. They're all 30 days.
30 days? Okay.
Yeah.
2.5 million.
2.5 million. And the thing with Kickstarter that not a lot of people understand is you're pledging that money to the artist. Now, whether that artist ever delivers on what he promises is not a legal binding contract. It's just a promissory note that, hey, I'm going to make this game and I'm going to send it to you. But if I don't, you're out of luck. So we're 2 years later.
Yes.
Moving on to 3 this summer. Where's the game, hussy?
He promised weekly updates to those who funded it. That was in 2012.
Yeah.
It was December 2013 when the first of those updates went out.
It was New Year's Day.
No, he said he'd do it by the end of the year. It went up New Year's Eve at 9 p.m.
Well, he was busy.
Yeah.
He was busy being like Scrooge McDuck in a room full of coins swimming around.
It was a couple characters and a blurry image of the summaries and stuff, so you can't read it, just know it exists.
You could do Grand Theft Auto in the time he's been working on this Homestuck game.
As of 2013, he signed a deal with The Odd Gentleman. And then
now, is that a company or just some guy I met on the corner? It's Some Odd Gentleman.
It's a small LA company.
It's a really small company that did PlayStation Home games. And they did
we know how that worked out. They just shut PlayStation Home down.
Yeah. They just did an indie game with Neil Gaiman of some haunted house game.
Wayward
It
Manor.
was one of the biggest bombs in Steam history.
You're not impressing me, guys.
And as of a couple months ago, Hussey announced he's no longer working with The Odd Gentleman.
For God's... You guys are selling it like, look, Dad, you don't understand. This is the guy behind Croc 2, okay? So he's got a pedigree. He's the guy who announced the date the Ghostbusters game would come out and Force Unleashed.
He is now working with What Pumpkin Developers, his own company.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that somebody who lives with him?
Yes.
I'm currently financing the 6-key movie with my partner, Rachel Tucker, Esquire.
Before Homestuck and MS Paint Adventures and any of this, he had Team Special Olympics, which was him and 3 or 4 of his friends
well,
making
that sounds offensive.
these really bad comics. And they were all really offensive comics. It's some kind of weird satire no one understands.
Oh. You're smiling with glee at some guy who's run like I just imagine Hussey with a big canvas sack that has a $ sign on it, running through the lawn like I got the money.
Those 3 friends or 4 friends or whatever are now like head of company, head of merchandising, head of video game. It's like,
Though unconformed and joked about a lot, it's pretty obvious that the head of What Pumpkin Studios is his wife.
we're not supposed to talk about that.
We're not.
That's like when we go to WonderCon and people come up to the table and your mom is there selling my book. Now, they don't know who she is, and she's like, well, the author, Jeff Tucker's not here, but he's going to be signing it too. And they're like, oh, the author's going to be here. And they have no idea that I'm literally at the bathroom getting a text from your mom going, some guy's coming to buy your book, so be here.
This actually kind of happened.
But wait, because real quick, we learned a valuable lesson, and that is, if I sit at the table, we don't sell any books because I look like a schnook. But if she says, oh, the author's here, but he's doing something, it's like, oh, he's busy. He's taking a meeting with Guillermo del Toro. I better get this book. Now, doesn't change the fact that I'm really proud of the books and that they're actually good, but the perception is that I got something going on. So if Hussey's hired his wife to head up the merchandise division, you could say that about your mom. She could be head of merchandise. She's made more horns than that woman has.
I remember going to, was it WonderCon or Comic-Con, and the person who was walking the booth was someone who drew the tarot cards for Andrew Hussey.
That was WonderCon.
That was WonderCon.
Yeah, everyone who works there has something to do with the comic. He doesn't hire random people.
They're all in the know.
It's like every panel of Homestuck is so dense, so packed full of images.
We've gotten to the point in the comic where literally every line of dialogue is a callback to some other line of dialogue in the 9,000 pages. You got to find where it's said before.
Well, that's totally understandable. Everything is cyclical, right? And he's at a point where at 9,000 plus pages, there's nowhere to go but backwards. Everything has been said and done.
That's the funniest thing you could have said, because what happened in the newest update just last night is that the main character now has superpowers that allow him...
Wait, before you even say it, I'm going to say he goes back in time to witness the events from another vantage point.
No, because time travel's been done since the first 1,000 pages. This is canon travel. When he goes back to earlier panels, Hussey actually redraws the comic thousands of pages ago and changes them. He literally travels earlier in the comic.
He's
But
non-canonical.
what do you mean changes them? You can't go back and change them because then you're saying to the reader, I don't care about continuity.
Exactly. He's changing
continuity.
continuity. He's changing continuity.
Listen, when Marty McFly went back to 1955, and he's, you know, when he's above the stage and watching himself play Johnny Be Good, the choreography that Marty's doing doesn't match the first one because I know it by heart. And the first time I saw it, I was like, BS. He's not doing the exact same thing. Yeah. This is not right. But you're saying when Hussey does it, it's like, well, it's a hipster thing. It's cool. He's rewriting the history of it.
What Hussey would have done is, like, if Back to the Future, you were to boot up the first movie and put the DVD in, and you could actually see Marty running around the first movie because he was there now.
They went back and we did it.
Okay, that's different. Yeah. That's different. Listen, I would buy that DVD. I would, if you're listening, MCA Universal, I would like to own that DVD if it exists. Please, thank you.
But if you guys even get really technical, it'd be like booting up the first movie, and it opens up with Biff waxing the car, and everything's fine because it never happened in the first place.
I see what you're
He's
saying.
He's actually changing canon. The old pages don't exist. He deleted those.
So it's all new.
It's all new.
And then you enjoy now. Much like the problem I have with Walking Dead, do you enjoy reliving the same scenes over and over again? Because I need the story to progress. And I get that at 9,000 pages, other than killing everybody for real, there's nowhere to progress to. So what could possibly the future of Homestuck hold?
Well, he claims it's only got about 900 pages left. We're halfway through a 450-page act.
Only 900? Hussey, you slacker.
Of this comic. It's hard. He's set up a lot of things, but has written himself in a way there's no way to get back to those things. 3,000 pages ago, there was a horse that was little tiny on someone's desk. That hasn't been explained yet. We don't know why. It might never get explained.
What does it matter if it's just a horse on somebody's desk?
Yeah.
He explains everything. There's a few gaps he's got to fill in still.
That'd be like having to show Doc shopping for the pieces to make the model of Hill Valley not to scale or painted. Like some things you just have to assume, look, he went and got that.
It'd be more like Marty going back in time and giving Doc the pieces to build the model.
Oh, no. See, now you're being ridiculous.
But Darth Vader built C-3PO.
Okay, you see, you invoked the Holy Trilogy. Yeah, sorry. You know, somebody wrote a comic where when they're on Bespin, you know, when C-3PO gets blown up, he imagined a scene where Vader is given the parts and holds up C-3PO's head like Macbeth, alas poor Yorick. And that's why, because he remembers that he did it, that he made C-3PO, he puts the pieces in a box and gives them to Chewbacca instead of just having them melted down. That might be, well, no, because Chewbacca's the one who takes them out of the...
They show Chewbacca taking them off the cart.
But like, that scene is somewhere in the middle. Like, maybe that's why, I haven't read the comic, and somebody out there's going to go, no, I've read the comic. But the whole thing's nonsense. Who freaking cares? The fact that Darth Vader built C-3PO is the most moronic thing I've ever heard. And a string of moronic events in those prequels. Don't get me started. So, what are you gonna do when you boot up your computer or on your phone? I mean, you get things here. You have to understand. At my house, Luke's phone goes off, and he has an announcement that's Lemon Grab from Adventure Time, and he says, "What, Austin?"
Unacceptable.
And it's really loud and annoying. And all of a sudden Luke will go, oh my God, update. And it means that Hussey's posted some pages and they have to stop whatever they're doing and run to the monitor. What are you going to do on the day when it's the last update? Okay. And at the end he writes, end.
Two things about that. No, three. I can think of three things about that.
I can think of one off the top of my head right now.
One is that day's never going to come. Yeah. He's been saying since 2011 that, okay, this is the last year of the comic, and here we are in 2014, 6,000 pages later.
Well, why would you end it? I mean, this is your bread and butter. He's the one who... We're not saying, like, it's not like Game of Thrones where, like, well, we can't wait for George R.R. Martin to finish this thing finally. It's like, you guys are, like, never finished.
It could never end.
Never
end. It just keeps going. And the second thing is that he's also been saying since, like, 2011 that he's always had the idea for an even bigger comic, that Homestuck was a test to see if this kind of medium of reader interaction could work. And the real plot he designed for it is next.
So this is just a warm-up.
It's a warm-up. Problem Sleuth was a warm-up to Homestuck.
Homestuck? What's there left to say about it?
We don't know.
A lot of rumors actually say that this ultimate idea he had thought of is what was turned into the Trolls, which are the Zodiac
in Act
characters.
5.
And what are the Trolls?
They are aliens that are also literal internet trolls and make fun of the characters in canon.
They were internet trolls first, then they had the idea of making them aliens. He writes everything, what did he call it? Retroactive foreshadowing.
I was going to say retroactively.
Retroactive foreshadowing.
And this is where the horns come in.
Yes. But all the trolls have horns, and they're casted by blood color.
And the gray skin.
And the Zodiac.
And every time we go to a convention, Austin tells me, well, this is the time, man. This is my Austin impression. So I'm going to do the gray skin thing. And I'm like, not in my car. You're not putting gray skin on and getting in my car. I said, if you can figure out how to do gray skin at the convention, then you could do gray skin. But A, I don't want to be involved. And B, you're not riding in my car wearing gray skin because... Tell me about the Homestuck guy who got banned from the hotel for doing what?
They chopped up gray Sharpies in a bathtub.
Wait, let's say that again. He took a bag of gray Sharpies.
Chopped them up. Poured them in a bathtub, the hotel bathtub.
Poured them in a hotel bathtub.
Got in.
He got in it.
He destroyed the entire bathtub.
Wait, no, you're missing the middle part. He wallowed around in the gray muck.
Yes.
So as to... dye every inch of his skin gray.
Yes.
And then he got out.
And the bathtub was destroyed.
They had to pay $2,000, $3,000 to fix it.
And they got skin. They damaged their skin.
He ended up in the hospital People from ink poisoning.
No, duh. Not only ink poisoning, but like, have you seen, like, this is like the nerdy version of Goldfinger, where the girl's covered in gold paint, but instead it's gray Sharpie.
Yes.
Like, have you ever used a Sharpie for more than 5 minutes? You get lightheaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
Covered in
imagine?
it.
That's so
Head to
ridiculous.
toe.
I've been kicked out of hotel rooms for getting gray paint everywhere, for throwing buckets at each other.
Listen, you're never doing gray paint where I'm involved. Okay, if you want gray skin, it has to be where you go down to the pool, I don't know, and you can't put gray paint on in the hotel room. I'm on the hook for that.
Well, I would go for the easier solution, which is gray tights, which cut up and sewn into gray gloves, and then gray leggings, and just paint the face.
That's what I would do, because we saw that girl at Comic-Con dressed as the girl all in white with the martini glass, Roxy.
She dressed
and
in white.
she probably looked great in the morning, but
Yeah.
by 3 o'clock, she looked like stucco. Like everything was cracking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I've only ever seen the white done once or twice. That's on the human characters. Instead of choosing a race for them all to be, he just does their skin in #FFFFF,
Yeah.
pure complete white.
And this is where headcanons were created.
Oh,
Different people.
headcanons.
I hate
Don't even
headcanons.
start with headcanons.
I hate headcanons. I'm going to say this right here. This is the idea that people believe the comic is so minuscule looking, that the skin is so bland, that they think they can believe the characters whatever they want. Like, some people will say, John Egbo is this waist. And I'm like, I don't think they have any waist. They're just comic drawings. But people...
what on earth are you talking about?
Like, where do I begin to describe
Really?
this?
Okay, let's set the scene really quick, because the Homestuck characters are not realistically drawn.
They have no hands, and they're these little stubby, chibi
they're
characters.
like nub chibi things.
Yes.
So how the hell can that have a race?
People
Unless it's
yes.
two of them running to see who gets there first,
Yeah.
they can't have a
This
race.
is
You know
why
what I'm saying?
Headcanons were created. People draw...
Wait, what is head cannon?
it's
What does that mean?
What things you make up yourself, or what you think is in the comic.
Okay, so not their head. It's a cannon that it's in
Yeah,
your
it's
head.
in your head.
Okay,
Like,
I
fans
was
make it up.
I was reversing. Okay, I
Yes.
figure it out now.
Like, for example, John Egbo has black hair, but most of the time my Tumblr dashboard, they draw him with brown hair. That's the headcanon.
Well, see, there's your problem right there, is that you're trusting anything. If somebody on Tumblr says it's raining, I would check the window before I would get a jacket. Do we need to talk about DashCon at all?
DashCon.
How many Homestucks were taken in by DashCon to get extra time in the ball pit?
Yeah.
We have pictures of Eridan in a ball pit.
That's somebody from Homestuck.
Yes, Eridan.
Now,
Where?
as awful as we know DashCon was, I would have given anything to be a part
Yeah,
of it.
that was great. That was great.
Like I saw Howard the Duck twice in the movie theater, so I would have given anything to be at DashCon for that weekend. Okay, we're nearing the hour mark, so we got to wrap this up. We can always come back and do Homestuck Part 2. But I wanted to touch on something briefly to give this thing some weight at the end. Because, like the people who sat through my hour-long history of Morrissey, only to find out that I was really talking about a love letter to my wife. And everybody was like, oh my God, it was the most romantic episode ever. I was like, yes, it's only dreary and boring till the end. It's just like a Morrissey song. So anyways, let's talk about briefly what I've noticed about Homestuck, and you tell me if I'm wrong or right.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about plot or anything. I'm going to talk about what I see at the conventions. Homestuck to me seems like the bastion, the place for the true outsiders. Like, it's one thing to like a comic book that nobody else likes, which is harder and harder these days. Like, I've been going to conventions since 1984. So if you'd have told me that I'm going to someday see a girl dressed as Darth Vader or a girl dressed as Deadpool, yeah, skin-tight unitard, hello, I would have said, you're crazy, but here we are. So there aren't that many places left untapped where everybody's into everything. But it seems to me like Homestuck is the one true outsider thing, because when you take that escalator down to Kamikaze and you see that land of Homestucks, what you're seeing are transgender kids who don't feel like they have a spot or a place, and they put these horns on and this makeup and this shirt, and like you said, they're welcomed right away. It's
Yeah.
you're as outsider as I am, because you know what? The crap upstairs is not outsider anymore. When they got a pop vinyl of Eddie Munster, no place of pop culture is left untouched by corporate and collectability and make it, sell it, make it, right?
Yeah.
But suddenly down there, here's this area where these kids have taken this thing that doesn't exist except on their home computers, in their home. You can't go to a movie theater. You can't watch it on TV. It's only in your computer. And it encourages you to take a part in. So you feel 10 times more ownership of it than you do DuckTales. Right? Or the guy dressed as the Quail Doug crime fighter in his underwear, right? Quail Man or whatever it is.
I don't even know.
Like, or Sailor Moon, or any of the other things that's gone like, we gotta sell the crap out of that. They do sell Homestuck stuff, but it's not like an outsider walks by and goes, hey, look at that, I'm gonna buy that. Like I would buy a piece of art about a comic book. Like I have art on my walls that, like, I got a Batgirl Prince album. Like that's so outside of my realm, but I like it because it's sexy looking and it's 80s and all that. But nobody does that with the Homestuck stuff because the Homestuck stuff is tailor-made for the Homestucks.
Yeah.
So the question I'm asking is, do you feel like nobody judges in the Homestuck realm? Everybody's welcome. Doesn't matter how crappy your cosplay is, how weird your zilly who is. It's really about, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. It's about like gay kids, transgender kids, bisexual kids, because this fandom really encourages everybody to be everybody. Because Dave Strider, the boy character, 99% of the time is played by a girl.
And Kanaya
So,
Mariam
talk
is
about that.
always a
Kanai
guy.
is always a guy. And Roxy's half and half.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about, like, how does that make you feel about the fandom? It's a positive thing. Tell me,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what is that?
We have a good fandom.
They're accepting.
So
They're accepting.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right in that?
Hmm. And the comic actually does feature lesbian characters. And, well, no, actually there isn't.
Cronus's other kin. There's not much in the comic. In the actual
Yeah.
comic, there isn't much. When I sit down and think about it.
But why is it embraced so much by that
There's
sort of person?
It's weird. There's no exact reason. He wrote the comic for 30-something-year-olds with all these retro references in it, and it was latched onto by these really weird group of accepting teens.
That's pretty neat, right?
Yeah.
Like to have this thing, because the only thing I can compare it to is your mom and I growing up in the 80s, and we both liked a band that by the time we got into them had already broken up. The Smiths were not available to us. We wore the shirts to show we like this band that nobody's ever even heard of. Well, who are they? Oh, they're broke up already. They're never gonna have another album. So there is something to that. There is something to. I can see both sides because I enjoy the heck out of corporate geekness. You know, when they put the Star Wars trailer on, I was right there, man. But I also get like having that certain little thing that's just yours. Like that's interesting. That's in this day and age, it's rare too. Because when you talk about, when you go to Kamikaze and you say there's 100 people dressed as Homestuck, like that's nothing.
Yeah.
Because there's 35,000 people at the convention.
Mhm.
But when you're in the thick of it, you feel included.
There's more Jokers than there are Homestucks.
There's more Harley Quinns than there are Homestucks. There's a Harley Quinn every 3 feet. Harley Quinn. Oh, Harley Quinn. Oh, Harley Quinn. Oh, Kevin Smith's daughter still counts. And just so you guys know, just for those of you listening at home, if you watch Comic Book Men, the whole time my wife was talking, I was doing the Kevin Smith listening face, where his eyes get really big and he smiles and he nods. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to wrap this up. Any last words on Homestuck? Doesn't have to be the final word, because we can do another episode whenever we want. But, you got anything you want to say about Homestuck?
Oh, God. That's so
Go
bad.
ahead.
Where do I start?
Imagine Andrew Hussey is listening. What would you say?
What would I say?
Thank you for making this amazing
God.
webcomic.
Get up here, Mom.
I said the same thing also at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. We've been gifted with this amazing form of media.
I would say thank you for letting my children be able to express themselves and be who they are, which they both do in completely different ways, but in the same way too. Like, it's hard to explain.
Well, hold on.
Like that?
Yeah.
So I had to pause because I had to get permission to talk about what I'm going to talk about. Comic-Con was really... Now, we were supposed to be wrapping up the show, but those of you who are looking at your iPods or your iPhones or whatever can see that we're far from the end here.
Hey, it's just like Homestuck now.
Right. Right. So we went to Comic-Con this past year, and the rule at Comic-Con for my gang is everybody gets one thing, because we're going to get so much free stuff we're not going to know what to do with it. But it needs to be like one specific hefty purchase, right? And a hefty purchase at Comic-Con for us, because we're a family of 5, is like $40. As a family of 5, that's $200 before you've even left the gate, plus food, plus parking, plus gas, plus everything else. So when we sat down, it's funny, Josie's in a snap. What did Josie get? Do you remember at Comic-Con what her big gift was?
My Little Pony.
My Little Pony. Derpy.
Yeah.
Right. And what did you get? Do you remember? Did you get something? I can't remember what I got.
Can't remember either.
I don't remember.
Walking Dead comes to mind, but I don't remember.
They didn't. Did they do a Star Wars 12-inch? No, they didn't.
No,
I don't think they did.
Alien.
I got what I wanted, and it was free. I talked about it on the Comic-Con podcast. I wanted those Back to the Future cards more than anything in the world.
I know what I got.
And I did all the legwork to get a full set of Back to the Future cards.
Calendar.
She got Yaya's calendar. That's right, and it was exactly in our money, $35 freaking dollars.
But I got to take pictures, and it's autographs, and it was worth every penny.
See, there you go. Go Yaya. Yeah, and we saw Yayas, which was very nice. And I'm saying you, Luke and Austin wanted something from the We Love Fine booth. So this was Friday morning, and we're on the Comic-Con floor, and it was pretty early. It wasn't mobbed in the far corner. It wasn't mobbed at all. And you guys come up to me, and you tell me what you want, and I was like, what? What the heck? There's a million things to get, and you guys wanted what, Austin?
Homestuck cosplay dresses.
A Homestuck cosplay dress.
Yes.
We should state, in case anybody was unsure, you're both male at this point, right? And you both want a dress. And my question to you both was, I don't get it. I don't understand. Now, as a tolerant and loving father, I said, okay, that's what you want. I went to Austin and I said, here's $40. If you want it, you go buy it. And you went and bought it, right? And you wanted it why?
To cosplay the character?
So you wanted to cosplay the character.
Yeah.
And now, since Comic-Con, you've actually had a change of heart, right?
Well, yeah, I put on the dress, and I'm like, I don't pull this off as well as my brother at
all. So what'd you do with it?
I gave it to him because
So-
he can pull it
My
off.
closet now.
Now, Luke has both dresses, right? And so, there you are. Josie's joining us. You want to say what you got at Comic-Con? You have to talk really loud, honey, if you're across the room. Yeah, that's right. We're moving on. So anyways, Luke comes up to me and he tells me the same thing. I want this particular cosplay Homestuck dress, right?
Ecclesia?
I thought it was Electrica.
Electicla? I don't know.
Electrica
The blue
dress.
jade one.
Well, I'm so glad your $40 dress, you don't even know who it is.
No one knows how to pronounce half the things in the comic.
Oh my God. Oh my
Well,
God.
a lot of people have headcanons and how to pronounce.
Don't
that-
get on no pronunciation headcanons.
Okay, none of that.
Kanyas.
Don't get
out of your
sidetracked.
Kanyas.
So I went to you, Luke, and I said, why do you want this? You said, I don't know, right? What'd you say?
Didn't know. I broke into tears.
You broke into tears. And as a parent, and again, 91 Reasons is honest. I tell honest things. I knew at that moment that this can go two ways. I can tell you no and have a big scene and tell you to get something gender specific and decide what you want that I approve of and have a big fight, or I can hand you the $40 and say, you go buy what you want. And what did I do?
You handed me the money.
Because that's what I do. It's not my job to pick what you like. It's your job to tell me and for me to go, okay, what does it matter to me? It doesn't matter to me. So you went over with your mom and you're both crying because this dress means more to you than it does to Austin.
Yeah.
To Austin, I think Austin's like the idiot who goes to the car lot to shop and drives off in a Ferrari. And he's like, I don't need this. I don't want this. I just wanted a Hyundai. But you went shopping for something in particular. Now, if you don't want to talk about it, we can move on. This is you making a statement, right? What does that mean?
I don't know what to say.
It's okay. I'm not putting you in a spot. Anytime you can end this anytime. Okay. I'm just saying, like, we had a moment, and the guy, the very gay guy at We Love Fine was like, oh my God, I'm here for this moment. And because I do movie references, to me, he was the guy from The Rock who's like, I don't care that you threw them in over that balcony. Do you like your haircut? Like, that to me, that's what it was. So,
I think we should give Teresa some credit.
Yes.
Because this was a lot going on. I have my husband who is taking in what his son is telling him. I have my son bawling and emotional because he's standing in a crowd of 100,000 plus people telling his father he wants a dress for reasons that are not exactly cosplay. And then I'm trying to keep it all together, and Teresa's the one same person who goes, okay, Luke, let's find out what size you'd wear in a dress. We need to get measurements because, you're going to be much different in a dress than a girl would be in.
Right.
But
as if you're ordering a sandwich at Subway. Yeah. I don't know if I want the turkey or the roast beef. Well, let's just get you a sandwich. Let's start with the bread. What size bread do you want? Foot long or 6-inch? Right? So what I would say and how I would wrap up as the father of 2 Homestucks is I would say I'm happy that this thing exists and that it allowed you in that place to tell me what you wanted and more, because you were telling me a lot more than I just want a dress, and I'm okay with that. As a parent, all we want for you kids is to be happy, and if Homestuck is part of that, then it's part of our lives. I've not read it. I know that some parts are filthy, involving trolls and buckets.
Buckets, yes.
But I don't judge. Because the plot of Back to the Future is that Marty's mom wants to have sex with him. And that's why Disney passed, because guess what? Mm-hmm. That's sick. That's incest. But it's okay.
Plenty of incest.
Oh, that's great. I'm so proud. So I would say I'm glad that you discovered this, because everybody goes through that teenage moment of trying to find something to cling to that allows you to express yourself and be who you are, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it was Back to the Future. I've referenced it enough every day since that Back to the Future became my touchstone of what I wanted to be. And anytime somebody says, what are you about? And I'm like, put this movie on. That's what I'm about. Now, I'm not going to read 9,000 pages, but I can say that talking to you guys for, at this point, about an hour and 12 minutes, I have learned more about you in the last hour than I have the last 2 years. And you guys are funny because you said, I don't know what to say. And there are moments where I'm not on the show. And that's fantastic. Any last thoughts about any of this crap? I say crap in the most loving way.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up, all right? We'll wrap it up because we can always do part 2. We want to thank you all for listening to 91 Reasons. Once again, who's here?
Mom.
Luke.
Austin.
I am the voice you hear. I am Jeff Tucker. Thanks for listening to the show. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is to go on iTunes and leave us a review. We're up to 15 5-star reviews. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I want to thank all of our listeners around the world. We just had the guy, whoever it is in Deutschland, who popped up and downloaded. Thank you. You probably don't know what I'm saying because somebody is listening, and maybe you're an American station there or somebody who speaks English. I have no idea. Maybe this is just a random download. I don't know, but you came back. And Ghana, and New Zealand, and Australia, and the UK, Canada, United States, and even the one time somebody in China downloaded for whatever reason. I don't know. And you know what? A special shout out to the prince in South Africa who has to regain his throne, and all he needs is $1,000. And I was so happy to provide that, but he's going to pay me back like $12 million. And I know it's not a scam, so I think that's fantastic. But want to thank you for listening. We're all going to say it on the count of 3. You ready? You're listening to the fantastic show, bonus episode, Homestuck-inspired episode of 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening? You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, welcome back. This is yet another episode of 91 Reasons, and we're going to continue our strange journey through the outer fringes of the internet to the dark side where only the strangest of the strange inhabit. Of course, we all live there, so it's not a strange place to us. But it is a strange outpost. I can see a sign coming up. It says, "Now entering Homestuck." Well, it's episode 2 of our Homestuck series as we delve into the massive online internet webcomic Andrew Hussey's Homestuck. Last episode, we talked about a little bit of what Homestuck is, a lot about what the Homestuck fandom is, and then what it means personally to me and my family. And now I should say that my 2 co-hosts, who you're going to meet in a second, they were very hesitant to come on the show. They didn't think they'd have a lot to say. And you can tell from the episode because it starts out where they're pretty far from the microphone, and by the end, they're right up on the microphone. They have a lot to say. And if you can hear this, what they did after the show was they sat down and they wrote all this stuff they forgot to mention. So we have tons more Homestuck material. We're so glad that you're listening. We have listeners all over the world because of this strange Homestuck phenomenon. I am the voice. I am Jeff Tucker. This is 91 Reasons. I am joined by my co-host. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, I'm Austin Tucker.
You know them from last episode. They have a lot to say about Homestuck. And last episode, I interviewed them to sort of draw out what I wanted where I wanted the show to go, and we'll probably see some of that this time. But I know that they have a much more clear idea of what the show is and what they've brought to it. So, if you're just joining us, who wants to step up and tell us real quick, like what Homestuck is? What is it? We know it's a webcomic, but we never really, I asked you last time, what the plot was, and you said it was a young man in his house who gets a video game. Yes. And I don't think we progressed any farther than that on the plot. And something that's 9,000 plus pages, you need to tell me what it's about. So, real quick, a guy gets a video game. Is it like a gift or a birthday gift?
It arrives in the mail, and it's 500 pages before he gets the mail, and then another 500 for him to play the game. And do you want just a quick overview of everything, or just a setup?
No, see, you're going back into that. This is how many pages before he does this.
Whole overall setup.
No, the thrust of it is he gets a video game.
Yes, he gets a video game.
Okay, that could be the plot of Tron. What is the plot?
The video game is set up in such a way that it requires multiple players to connect to each other. So, the first whole act of the story, well, I say act, it's section, which is multiple acts, is all of his friends getting on the game. They all do their own little adventure to start up the game. Then once the game's on, it cuts to an alien planet, where it shows 12 more alien kids playing the game, and they all have a little adventure to play theirs.
Now, these are the trolls.
The trolls.
Now, how many pages in are we for this to happen?
They appear on page
4,800, I want to say.
Yeah, late 4,000s.
What on earth can happen? And I know that, again, I'm already derailing what you're saying, so don't ignore that. So the kids play the game. multiplayer game, and then we cut to aliens playing the same game.
Yes.
Boy, it must.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't get Xbox and PlayStation to play the same game, and they're doing it across galaxies. This is like the plot of Independence Day.
Across universes. It's a very specific thing, is they're in different universes. Because when the trolls beat their game, you get the first glimpse of what the game's about. Which is that when you complete it, you create a universe. You become gods of your own universe. The aliens beat their game and create humankind.
Okay, so you're talking about the creation of. So did they get that? They obviously got their game first.
A few million years before.
So you're saying they got the video game, played it, and managed to use whatever the DLC was on that game to create human life, which then played the same game.
Yes.
Oh, my head hurts.
He wrote it as a creationism myth of how life could have started. And this is, in Hussey's mind, every universe plays a video game to create the next. And
Okay, so what happens after that?
after that, the kids fail their game. To change up the plot, the kids actually lose their game. So what they do is they hit the reset button, and they go back to the start. Only now they've been swapped with their parents, so they're born at different times through time travel shenanigans. They've been swapped. So it's 4 new kids playing the game that were the parents of the kids before them. And
Okay, all right. I hate to say it, but I'm following along.
and we're now in the 4th section of Homestuck: kids, aliens, new kids. We're now just in the middle of the 4th section, where all the characters have finally come together and are trying to play the same game now. It's one giant game now they're trying to beat.
According to Hussey, it's the expansion pack for
Yeah,
the
it's
game.
the expansion pack. We beat the first 3 discs, and now we're in the expansion pack.
Okay, so then they're playing. How is that the plot? Like, what could happen after that? But okay, go ahead.
What do you mean? That's where we're at. We don't know what happens after that.
So that's where and that takes how many pages to get to?
9,000 before the characters even meet each other in person.
Oh my God, this sounds like work.
The entire comic's over internet chat logs.
Yeah, Pesto Chum. It's sort of like
Yeah.
AOL.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that there's very few pictures? Is it like Zork, where it's like a text adventure?
Well, the entire thing's supposed to spoof text adventures, yes.
Oh, see, I never picked up on that.
Yeah.
I'm imagining like a comic book with fully
There's-
illustrated pages.
No, there's a fully illustrated picture, and sometimes it's a GIF or a movie. And then there's you click a button to show Pesterlog, and it's just this giant wall of text. Which is why it takes so long to read.
Okay, I just imagine like in the episode 17, how do you get the wizard's key?
But it's said he's lost it now because of meta shenanigans. But the original premise is every page isn't a click for next page. It's a command that the reader inserted, because it was all written in tune with the readers. The first ever update was John, enter name, and then there was a little box where you could type a name to enter, and then it was John Egbert and like that. And every page is John and then a command, or Rose and then a command.
Okay, so in a nutshell, aliens play a video game that allows them to create life. They create us, human life. We evolve eventually to play the same game, and then we and the aliens, who are now millions of years old,
Yeah.
are playing the same game, and that's where we're at.
Yes.
Did I just get it in a nutshell?
Pretty much. But circumstantial simultaneous events, it kind of messes that all up. Because technically the trolls and the kids play this game at the same exact moment in space-time.
The same time as we
Yes.
play it.
Because paradox space, which is where all the universes are, the universes are in a physical space.
Okay.
Time and space are flipped there and don't make sense. So things can happen at the same time and yet before and after each other.
How can things happen? Okay. Who's controlling that, though? Because, like, you guys also watch Adventure Time, and what's the name of the guy who's in charge
Prismo.
of... Prismo is in charge of all
There's-
that.
There's a few different layers depending on how meta you want to get on who's in control. In the story sense, it's the horror terrors, which are these Cthulhu-like tentacle monsters that float around in the paradox space between the universes. It's just void and monsters. But if you want to get more meta than that, then there's AH, which is Andrew Hussie. And he's actually running around writing the comic while the characters themselves are messing with him. And then now we're at the point where Caliborn, one of the characters, has hijacked the comic from Hussie and is now writing the comic himself.
So do you ever foresee Homestuck becoming anything other than what it is? It can't be a movie or a cartoon. Like you've got hardback copies of Homestuck.
The book, yes.
So I've never looked at it. Is it just pages of chat?
It's a lot of pages of chat. It's only the first 3 acts so far, so which aren't too text heavy, so they work out good. But it does have commentary by Hussie where he makes fun of it a lot. The books are almost a joke. Because there's a page where John messes up his inventory system, his in-game inventory system, and a little glass shard flies across the room. So it's like a page of all these little frames of a little piece of glass flying. And the Hussie's comment is like, you have to really squint to even see a difference in each panel here. But there's a little speck of glass flying. And it doesn't translate well in the book.
Right. So they did publish a book because why? Shing,
Money.
of course. That's why we do anything, right? Okay, so it exists as a webcomic with the plot we just went over.
Yeah.
It exists as a hardback series of books. How many are they up to?
They're up to 3 when the last one came out last November. Word is his Rachel, his wife or love or something, finished books 4 and 5 as of like February and March, but he hasn't gotten around to write commentary for it yet.
And it's only worth publishing with commentary.
Yeah, because that's the only new content. Everything else is just the comic in a really bad form.
Next is actually the intermission.
The intermission, yeah. Books
Yeah.
4 and 5 is intermission and Act 4.
Yeah.
Well, what is intermission? Is it the
It's-
trolls singing "Let's all go to the lobby"?
No. In the Homestuck universe, Dave Strider turns on his computer and goes to the Homestuck website. Only it can't be Homestuck. He can't go on and read Homestuck. So in their universe, Andrew Hussie wrote a comic called The Midnight Crew. So the intermission of Homestuck is you get to read a section of The Midnight Crew.
Okay, and who are the Midnight Crew?
They're a gang. They start out as being a gang of mobsters fighting the Felt, which is a billiard-based other gang of mobsters, led by Lord English.
They're themed after playing cards.
And the Midnight Crew's playing cards: Hearts Boxcar, Diamonds Droog, Spade Slick, and Jack Noir. No.
Club's Deuce.
Club's Deuce. I listed Jack twice.
And did the name come from the old song?
The name came from Mayanaka's old webcomic. He never got into comic form. It was just an idea he threw around to Hussie. And eventually Hussie did commissions for Prom Sleuth, his old webcomic. So this guy named Mayanaka paid Hussie $20 and said, do a little crossover between my characters and yours. And now Hussie's just fully adopted his characters as his own, because Mayanaka never started his own thing.
But how does the turn of the century 1915, 1920 song figure in?
Hussie first made fun of where the Midnight Crew name came from by writing a little comic where the characters go on Google and search the Midnight Crew. And since this was before Homestuck, all he gets is some African Christian band.
It's an African jazz band.
African jazz Christian band. So they all get out jiggery doos and start playing music.
So is there actually still a band called the Midnight Crew?
We don't know. They've never been important. But because what they were actually based off of, Mayanaka actually based them off, was a song called The Midnight Crew that showed up. So it was his story.
And it's a really old song, right?
1912.
And it's on a
something like that.
a real thick record on YouTube, right?
Yeah, one guy got the record on YouTube that they've ripped for the comic, and now has been restyled to all these different genres and remakes.
You want to sing it for us, Austin?
I think.
Come on.
I'm a member of the Midnight Crew. I'm a night owl and a wise bird too. I'm with the milk in the morning, singing the same old song. Wise with the moon, go to bed with the sun. Early to bed and you miss all the fun. Bring your wife and trouble, it'll never trouble you. Make her a member of the Midnight Crew.
But it's all done like the Haunted Mansion, like,
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Midnight Crew. Like that's the style, right?
The post-punk one is better by Bowman.
The post-punk one, yeah. Okay, so that's the intermission.
That's the intermission, which is 900 pages.
Intermission, that was 300.
It's not that long, actually. Yeah, it's only a couple hundred,
It's
three or
300 to
400.
somewhere between there.
It's only a couple hundred.
Yeah, that's relatively short.
Fight Club is only a couple hundred pages. Look at all he told in that.
But there's no internet text logs in it.
The intermission, a lot of people skip it. That's the ongoing joke. People skip the intermission because it's not important. And then later on, it's the most important thing in the comic.
Well, yeah, that's the same way where if you're reading The Watchmen for the first time, you
Yeah.
skip all that supplement materials at the end of each issue. And at the end, you're like, oh, man, I wish there was... Oh, there is more. There is more if I go back and read Under the Hood over and over again. Right? And
Yeah.
the artist is missing who drew the pirate comics. And like it all... It seems superfluous, but it actually is an integral part of the story.
Yes. It's not for another 1,000 pages or so where the characters show up in the real comic. And they're actually part of the Homestuck canon. The game, when you turn it on, has NPCs. There's little... reptiles that are the generic citizens, and then there's these two moons that each have carapacians, which are these hard-shell generic video game NPCs. A gimmick with the game is every time you play, a random NPC will get teleported back to Earth and become your exile, where they get a little computer and can talk to you. And that's where the commands come from canonically, not from the readers, but from the exiles watching the characters. The trolls, their exiles are the Midnight Crew. The Midnight Crew defeat the Felt and get into the Felt's secret vault to get the treasure, which is just a computer that allows you to talk to the trolls.
So they're able to find basically, and I'll use a movie reference because that's what I do. They find the Holy Grail. Because
Yeah.
Belloc says it's a radio for talking to God. And if the trolls are the ones that created Earth and all the people, then they're God.
They're God, yeah.
They're the gods of creation.
Karkat's God. The first thing he says in the comic is, I am your God speaking to you. And then John just like, hi, Karkat. Because Karkat does this lame thing. He talks backwards. He calls... The trolls have the ability that since it's all already happened, they can talk to the kids at any point on their timeline. So he talks to John right before they complete the game, and then works backwards. So John's already heard of Karkat at the beginning, but Karkat doesn't hear of John till the end. So Karkat's first conversation with John is John's first conversation with Karkat, and vice versa.
So what you're saying is that Homestuck is for intelligent people.
Yeah, it's so hard to make sense of it all.
But you grasp it. Because
Yeah.
it seems to me to be very, almost overly complicated.
Yeah.
In that it's not a linear story. It keeps folding back on itself. And instead of being just a one-time gimmick that seems to be like a recurring theme, like every 3 or 4 steps forward you take, Hussey then takes the comic back 2 or 3 steps.
Yeah, it's constantly going in on itself, and the entire comic is based on references to itself. You got to track every line of dialogue to know what's going on, because everything's said multiple times. And with both time travel and canon travel now, it just keeps reliving some of the same moments, but from different things happening and going wrong.
There's also a lot of scenes we don't get to see that are implied.
Yeah, there's a lot of implied scenes in the dialogue.
Like
a lot of people like just look at the art, and you can get the basic aspects of the comic just by looking at the panels, but then the chat implies a lot more scenes. Like there'll be one line of dialogue that explains 1,000 pages of theories.
Like you don't get to know the Midnight Crew's full story of how they got exiled.
The Midnight Crew's never given an exact origin. You have to piece it together from all the different times they're shown.
Well, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. Now, you've got a list here. Let's just pick a couple
Pick
things.
the weirdest thing you see.
Well, the weirdest thing I see, obviously, is for some reason, Andrew Hussey has this bizarre fascination and fixation on Rufio from the movie Hook, as played by Dante Basco.
Yes.
Well, okay, before we get to the fact that Basco has inserted himself into the fandom,
Yes.
where does this come from?
It comes from a scene in Homestuck where a lot of people were dying, and it was just revealed that if you kiss a dead body, the dead body will come back to life in another world, and somewhere else they'll wake up. So they corpse smooch all these different characters candidly.
Wait. Corpse smooch?
Corpse smooch.
That's illegal in just about every state.
And then they do the 3 times corpse smooch combo. But then to top it off, to complete their attack, they do a 4 times corpse smooch combo, which requires cutting to Andrew Hussey making out with Rufio after he dies in Hook.
Oh my God. I don't understand. So for some reason, the comic transports Hussey to the world, Neverland, the world of Hook, where Rufio has just died at the hands of Captain Hook. And then he makes out with him and brings him back to life in the Homestuck universe.
No, that's not quite, because it's never explained in the comic, but on Hussey's Formspring. Formspring is a website where you can ask celebrities questions. No one uses it anymore. He used to have one. Someone asked him what was up with that scene. He explained it. He said that was a flashback to him playing his own session. At some point, we don't know when, A.H., the self-insert of Andrew Hussey, played his own game of Suburb. And his planet, instead of having reptiles as his generic NPCs, he had the entire movie of Hook replicated with characters of representing all the characters in the movie.
Now, when was this? When was this published?
This was
2011?
early 2011, I'd say.
Because it's eerily like Ready Player One.
Yeah,
Where
it would have been around the same time.
Because in Ready Player One, the virtual world Oasis contains duplicates of every movie setting around, from Goonies to War Games to Hook would have been at the tail end of Hook being 91 would have been the tail end of the references in Ready Player One. But it seems like the same kind of idea.
Yeah, he had to reenact the entire movie in order to complete his version of Suburb. Every player's land gets their own little mini quest.
Well, that sounds just like Ready Player
His was
One.
The flick sync.
Yeah, it sounds just like it.
And he differed from the movie though, because when Rufio dies, he tries to make out with him to bring him back. But Rufio's not real. He's just an NPC in the game, so it doesn't work.
Well, can you imagine like you're watching Hook, and instead of like a dignified death, one of the Lost Boys breaks from the crowd and just starts macking out with the corpse of Rufio? Like, that's really weird.
His dream self might wake up on Durst.
Well, okay. So this is where the scene comes from. But do you know, like, why is Andrew Hussey so obsessed with Rufio?
There's never been a clear thing. I've dug through archives, and I can take back almost every reference in the comic to some old blog post of his or some little adventure he had. And he's just obsessed with Hook. The only old reference of Hook I could find is in Wizardy Herbert, which is an unfinished novel of his that's available on the internet. And in it, he mentions the VHS Hook is laying around. It's never really plot important, it just happens to be there. And that's the only mention of it. Hussey just puts Hook in everything for no reason.
But he's of the age where Hook would have come out during his formative years, and he probably was one of those kids who got the videotape as a gift and watched it again and again and again. I mean, you have those movies,
yeah.
I have those movies, Austin has those movies, where it just becomes like part of the fabric of who you are because you've watched it so many times. Like, it's not letting any cats out of the bag to say mine was Back to the Future, because that's what I talked about last episode.
Back to the Future is this big thing. This is Hook we're talking about. This
Hook.
Random Peter Pan movie.
Yeah, but see, you guys are missing that when Hook came out, it was a pretty big deal because it was Robin Williams, who had just been nominated for an Oscar for Dead Poets Society, Julia Roberts, who was one of the biggest movie stars on the planet at the time, Steven Spielberg, Dustin Hoffman, Bob Hoskins, and it was Sony's massive Christmas release that was supposed to make $1 gazillion. Now, it didn't do very well at the box office, but you guys have discovered it because of Homestuck. And we've watched it, and I enjoy, because I watch almost any movie. It does have some pretty bad editing moments, but it's an interesting story about what would happen if Peter Pan grew up and didn't remember that he was Peter Pan. Mm-hmm. But See, I was older than I'm assuming what Hussey was, so I never identified with the Lost Boys or Rufio as like a hero, but apparently like he really got fixated on this thing.
Yeah. And so then what happened next was Dante Basco started a Tumblr, which is just he uses it. It's linked up to his Instagram, so he just takes pictures of his new sneakers and what videos on YouTube he's filming. And then people started messaging him like, "Hey man, you're in this comic. You got to read this weird little comic. You're in it. He makes out with you or something." So Hussey got wind that Dante Basco was going to start trying to read the comic. So he put a little message at the top of MSPA. It says, at the top, news, forums, merchandise, hello, Dante. And how long did it take him to get to the part? Like about a year for Dante Basco to read the 5,000 pages required till he shows up in the comic. And then just recently, a couple months ago, Dante Basco finally got to the part that came out 2.5 years ago, which is at one point there's a walk around video game where you have to talk to all these new trolls. It's a long story. There's 12 new trolls, and they're all parodies of different parts of Tumblr. There's a feminism girl and a social justice guy and this greaser guy and an actual representation of Dante Basco that's just him. It's just Dante Basco standing there.
Just Dante Basco.
Yeah, he's dressed up as Rufio, and he has wings because that has to make sense in the Homestuck canon. But it's Dante Basco. Hussey studied Dante Basco's Tumblr and Twitter and copied his text style and how he types.
How he talks, it's so weird.
It's how he talks. It's really eerie. And then there's a secret. If you do a certain thing in the game, Hussey will show up in the game, and he'll give you commentary on what he thinks of the characters. And there's this long secret love letter to Dante Basco about thank you for being here for this adventure and letting me use you in the comic and all this stuff. He's sorry for getting Dante wrapped up in all of his crazy kids.
That's so bizarre. Now, you showed me a Dante Basco music video called
Geekin' Out.
Geekin' Out, where he's pursued by Homestuck dressed cosplayers. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Like he's not only acknowledging it but embracing it. It seems.
Yes, he's entirely like he's just one of the fandom people now. They'll do voice acting videos, or they did a song, "The 12 Trolls of Christmas," where they have all the trolls singing about Christmas, and they had Dante Basco's trolls version show up in the song. And he actually voiced it. They got him to be in the fan song.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. Because he's the absolute canon voice for that character.
He's the only character in the comic with a canon voice. Because it's...
right? Lord English, Yalda Barath.
Okay. Hussey, obviously.
Roxy, Hussey, Rose, a couple others.
Now, he has big horns or little horns?
The biggest horns in the entire
That's
comic.
What I thought. Now, tell me about like a really quick side trip. Wasn't there a guy whose horns were so big that a hotel threw him out? It was like, you can't be here anymore.
He couldn't get in anywhere. They say that the entire Homestuck fandom can be taken down to one thing: a competition of who can make the biggest summoner horns.
And the Summonal is basically Dante Basco's character in an alternate universe.
Now, these horns are so big. I've seen a couple of guys sporting them that they have to have like a support string.
Yeah,
I've keep them aloft.
Seen it where it takes 3 more cosplayers on each side to hold up the horns.
And this is something you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Now, tell me about the guy who got banned.
Which guy?
Wasn't there a guy like we last episode we talked about the guy with the gray Sharpie paint skin, but didn't some guy with horns get told, "Look, you got to go"?
Do you remember a story like that?
No, I
don't remember.
No, it sounds familiar.
There's been
though.
a lot of issues of hotels kicking him out for the gray paint.
Yeah. Well, you can understand that.
There's been issues of people getting in trouble at cons for loitering. They make really big groups to get in everyone's way. They've been known to throw buckets at each other. We've been known to push each other downstairs. There's been a lot of injuries involving stairs.
Okay, before we get to that, because I have a question about that. Austin dressed up as... Who did you dress up as last Kamikaze?
Last Kamikaze?
You had those big wooden horns on the side of your head?
Tavros Nitrum.
Your Tavros Nitrum horns he made out of like this he took apart this African wood sculpture thing and stuck them on the side of his head all painted up. And I swear to God, they were so sharp. There were 2 or 3 times you got me. I had to wear glasses that day because I was out of contacts. But I turned to you and I said, if I hadn't been wearing my glasses, you would have blinded me.
Yeah.
They were so sharp and long. Now, those have been retired, thank goodness,
Yeah.
right?
They have
my
soft
God.
ones that we love to find now.
Yeah, those are the less prone to injury horns. So now, you said they like to throw people down the stairs. Now, that's a reference to who? To what?
Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
All right, that brings us to our next topic. The Homestucks are banned from the convention for throwing people down the stairs because they're paying homage to Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is what?
In Homestuck, Dave Strider, one of the humans, has his own webcomic called Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is Hussey created as sort of a well for references. It's something for the characters to reference. Like the comic itself is referencing movies and video games. The characters in their dialogue can reference this really purposefully bad comic, which actually comes from a few months before Homestuck even started. He thought of this.
Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
Cool Bro and Stoner Lou.
Cool Bro and Stoner Lou.
They started in the Penny Arcade forums. Someone made this horrible generic webcomic about these 2 gamer guys, Cool Dude and Stoner Lou, is sitting around playing games, doing Yo Mama jokes and
It
stuff.
sounds like. Do you remember that show on G4? What was it called? Bit Monkeys or something?
Oh,
No,
they're
those-
little 8-bit.
Yeah, they were little 8-bit characters. Like it was a cartoon show.
Yeah. So
Code Monkeys.
Code Monkeys.
Code Monkeys.
He was gonna submit this to Penny Arcade.
Yeah,
as a
he
real
was going to
comic.
submit this as a real comic on Penny Arcade. This was this guy's thing. He was going to be rich off this thing.
And what was it called?
Cool Dude and Stoner Lou.
Cool Dude and Stoner Lou.
And suddenly, Special Olympics, S_O, who we now know as Andrew Hussey, comes in, and he doesn't say anything. He just posts this comic he's made up called Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is... he drew a comic as bad as he possibly could, then ran it through filters to make it look almost unreadable. You can't even look at it right. And it's just this guy standing at the top of these stairs saying, I can't wait to sit around and be useless and play these games all day.
So
And then-
he's taking a piss on that guy's comic
Yes.
directly.
Yes.
This is like when, you know that movie Team America?
Uh-huh.
The puppet movie by the South Park guys?
Yes.
Originally, they were going to do a puppet version of the movie The Day After Tomorrow, where, what's his name? Jake Gyllenhaal gets stuck in New York, frozen in ice, and his father has to come save him. And they were going to do just a shot-for-shot remake, a screw with that movie, using marionettes. And somebody pleaded with him, like, look, it's unreleasable because we're gonna be sued. So instead they made Team America, which is a brilliant satire on action movies. So Hussey sits and just ruins this
Yes.
guy's life.
The guy responds to it saying, God, man, us_O, why, how high are you even right now? And Hussey just replies with a comic of Hella Jeff putting jelly on a hot guad. And Sweet Bro says, dang, man, how high are you even right now? He's just word for word messing with this guy.
So this is what happens when you screw with nerds. Like, they find really creative ways to screw back with you.
Now, Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff exists as a $100 coffee table book that is almost completely sold out now. It's actually only $50, but for $100, Hussey will write the name Dave somewhere in the book. He'll write the name Dave.
And that costs $50.
Yes, it's part of the experience.
Oh, great.
In the alternate version, once they reset the game, there's no more Dave to make a comic. So Dave grows up and makes Sweet Bro the movie with Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. And in their world...
So it's like, I told you about those stairs,
Yes.
bro. I warned you.
In that world, they don't make it past 2011 because one of the alien leaders breaks into their world and starts messing with things and takes over the world. So the entire Sweet Bro movie line actually has hidden propaganda against the alien empress, and it's all like the spy stuff hidden within this terrible movie.
Now you have embraced this art because we're talking about throwing people down the stairs, and the reference line is what?
I warned you about the stairs, bro.
Because somebody falls down the stairs.
I told you,
Yeah.
dog.
So you've embraced this, and you have this art on things. Like it's on your Christmas
It's on my
stocking.
Christmas stocking in the other room
and
right now.
It's really disturbingly bad.
Yes.
Like it's it's so bad that it's hard to duplicate because it's hard to draw that bad.
Yeah.
Badly.
He took a long hiatus and finally released a new one last Christmas and said, "Hope you guys like it." Took a year and a half to get it fine-tuned to just the right amount of bad quality.
Well, deliberate bad is hard to do. It's hard to do.
We get about one a year now.
Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff.
Yeah.
And you enjoy that.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got it written very big on your sheet right
yeah.
here. Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff. Now, do they have adventures? Are they like Beavis and Butthead? Or
let's see.
I don't quite grasp other than you've told me they fall down the stairs and they're putting what on what?
Jelly on a hot god.
A hot god.
Which is misspelling of hot dog.
Great.
But we keep waiting for it to show up in the comic as a literal hot god, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, give it time.
Each one's its own little contained story. Sometimes they're 2 or 3 pages long. One time it's the 9-part Nancho party where they're trying to get nachos and it just ends up with him locked in the bathroom. One time they're at the grocery store and he starts screaming, "There's too many prices and values."
This just sounds
And then
tedious.
the manager comes over and the cops get involved. There's another where it says the Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff and the Chorley Broon. This is what the reference, with a really bad picture of Charlie Brown. And it has him with the football. And he goes to kick the football. He takes the football away. He flies up in the air and gets hit by a helicopter and dies. And he just gets chopped up.
Now, Austin's laughing. Like, you enjoy this?
Yeah, it's quality entertainment.
This is kind of like, this is one of those side things that the comic takes, right?
Yeah. But it's super important. There's
Yeah.
every comic.
Wait a minute. How is it super important?
Every comic, almost every Sweet Bro comic has allusions to Homestuck in it that if you can decode the Sweet Bro comics, you could have spoiled the end of Homestuck years ago. It's all hidden in there somewhere. Like there's one where Sweet Bro, he's losing at chess, so he takes a chess piece, walks the other room, flushes it down the toilet, and it says, "Checkmate, bro, lol." But the chess piece is a cylinder with a little round thing on the top. And that looks like one of the characters' houses, which right after that comic was released ends up falling down into the water, just like he knocked it into the toilet. So he would have spoiled that moment if you can figure out what the heck it meant.
Now, is that intentional, or are you just reading into it?
He makes up crazy stuff and then tries to try back into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He had a house and noticed, hey, the chess piece from that old comic looked like the house. I should have it fall down like it did in the comic.
So that he can have it referenced.
He's retroactive foreshadowing.
Retroactive foreshadowing.
And the big cliffhanger of Act 1 is John's house gets hit by a meteor. In the first few pages, he has an Armageddon poster on his wall. Halsey at that moment hadn't decided a meteor was going to hit. He just looked back at the poster and said, "It'd be funny if I referenced Armageddon at the end here."
and then, of course, following the chain of references, you enjoy Armageddon because it's a reference
part of the
in
thing,
Homestuck.
yeah.
So Armageddon, which is a Michael Bay mega crapfest movie written by J.J. Abrams, is only one of the... now, the next film that's referenced is not a Michael Bay movie, but it's in the same ilk. It's directed by Simon West, and it continued the Nicolas Cage series of action movies that begins in The Rock, 1996, and then continues in Con Air, 1997. Con Air, one of the most incomprehensible action films ever made, where the cast themselves admitted during the making of it they didn't have a script. They were just filming scenes and hoping in the editing bay that something would happen. Now, that being said, Con Air is actually a very stupidly entertaining movie. But for some reason, this is yet another film that Andrew Hussey is obsessed with. Now, he's obsessed with Con Air to a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Even with Dante Basco being as important as he is, Con Air is the single most important referenced source in the comic. That or Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I would get Wizard of Oz, because a lot of films
Everything
reference
plays off
Wizard of
Wizard of
Oz,
Oz.
yes. But Con Air?
Con Air.
Con Air.
It's first...
Cameron Poe.
It's there since Act 1. One of the first things you see in the comic is John's wall with a poster of Con Air. It's one of his favorite movies. And then Dave gets him a present for his birthday, because it's John's birthday. And he gets him the actual replica, not the replica, the actual prop bunny from the movie.
The one where he goes, put the bunny back in the box.
Yes.
And then when he throws that guy out of the plane, he goes, why didn't you just put the bunny back in the box? Like, the dialogue's terrible, but we enjoy the movie because it's stupid entertainment.
Yes. And there's a lot of minor references to it, but the major reoccurring reference is the end of Con Air, where Nick Cage shows up with his family's there. He's seeing for the first time forever. And he gives his daughter the bunny and then hugs them all tenderly with How Do I Live playing in the background.
Right, okay.
And
how do I live without you?
That's been redone every once in a while in the comic. They have to redo that scene again. At the end of Act 4, he gets the bunny and he finds 2 yellow salamanders that are the reptiles of his planet, and he has to reenact the whole scene with them. He renames the baby salamander Casey, and she became a major character. She's a wizard now with an undead army.
Well, naturally.
Naturally, yeah. And the whole comic is leading up to John falling in love with Rose's mom because she's a blonde wife with a blonde child, and he has to give the bunny back to her, and they're going to do the whole scene eventually.
Which is more Con Air goodness.
Yeah, more Con Air goodness.
Oh, my God.
John's whole story arc is Con Air, everything.
What, did he go to prison for killing somebody? And
No,
the judge
but-
goes, I'm putting it for manslaughter because as a soldier of the American army, your hands are lethal weapons.
Every time the bunny shows up, they have to put it in a box or take it out of a box.
Oh, I think you showed me, like, some YouTube video where they were putting the bunny in the box and the bunny out of the box. And now, we talked last episode about Andrew Hussey's Kickstarter and how successful it was and how he got enough money to start this journey. We know that you told me he spent a little of that money on something
Yes.
frivolous. What did he buy?
For $11,000.
$11,000
Shipped.
from...
11,000 shipped.
Oh, my God.
Shipped from London. He bought the actual bunny from Con Air. He owns the one from the comic.
From the movie.
From the movie.
That's
But
featured in the
it's
comic.
featured in the comic.
He owns it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
it's not at a Planet Hollywood somewhere in a
No.
case.
Well,
it's at Andrew Hussey's house.
It's close enough because the hero bunny used in all the shots is probably in a museum somewhere. This is the one from the jail cell scene where it's still in the bag. It hasn't been opened out of the bag yet.
Okay, so he's got the one that's in the
He's
package.
got the bagged one, which is a better prop because it has more to it. But I guess it would have been better for him to actually hold the bunny. Hussey's never taken a picture of it again, so we assume he might have opened it.
It's not real. It's not a real toy. It's a prop.
It's a prop.
Why he would open it? What? Just so he can hold it?
So he can put it in boxes.
Oh my!
When he bought it,
$11,000 to play with it and put it in a box and take it out of a box.
when he bought it, he tweeted out with a picture of it saying, "I'm going to go practice my box dunking skills."
Oh, jeez.
John-
That is frivolous, man.
John has a special ability called Chaos Dunk, where he puts the bunny in the box and it shoots out a ray of energy. John, every character gets a weapon type. John uses hammer kind and bunny kind. The bunny's its own weapon he uses.
So the Con Air bunny has now been folded into the continuity of Homestuck,
Yes.
and it's a weapon.
Yes.
It's like a tesseract.
And then it evolved from the Con Air bunny. It got sent to his grandpa from an alternate universe, who is very skilled in nuclear physicists and robot stuff from watching movies and reading comics. So he turns the bunny into an android. So it's got robot parts and all these weapons and stuff. But Jake, his grandpa, isn't a fan of Con Air. He doesn't like Nick Cage. He likes weird, like a little later movies. His favorite movies, Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's.
The bunny, which John had started calling Liv Tyler after the Armageddon actress, Jake changes the name to Terry Kaiser.
The guy who plays Bernie.
The guy who plays Bernie at Weekend at Bernie's.
So the guy whose most famous part is he's a walking corpse.
Yes. So Terry Kaiser, Liv Tyler, and the Con Air Bunny are all in the comic as the same character.
You know that guy Terry Kaiser took that role as a lark, had no idea that it would become so successful and make a sequel, that he suffered huge back injuries from flopping around the whole movie and falling and being dead. That poor guy. That poor man.
Unfortunately, John's bunny was destroyed when they created reality. So it's a bummer.
It's not in there anymore.
They created the Green Sun, which is the power source for God, and it was destroyed in the explosion.
Okay, now, all right, so there's a lot of Homestuck minutia, and obviously we're not going to get to much more of it because we're at nearly 45 minutes at this point. But we haven't heard from Austin very much.
Oh.
I would like to ask you now, there was a point where Homestuck took a big break,
Yeah.
right? And Hussey was like, look, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to take a break. How long was the break?
It was about 1 year. Exactly 1 year. It was exactly 1 year.
So he took a year off from writing and doing the comic.
He called it the Gigapause. He said he was going to take a while off, which turned out to be a year. We all thought it would be much shorter, but it was a year. And he said he was going to write the rest of Homestuck. He said Homestuck was done as a writing project, and he wanted to move on to something else. So he was going to write the last few hundred pages of Homestuck and upload them all at once on one day and in the comic once and for all. Now, that never happened.
But he did take the year off.
Yeah.
Now, in the year, you guys had to fill your time with something because he wasn't giving you the fix of the pages of the updates, right? There was nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
So what did you do during the gigapause of Hussey not doing Homestuck?
Well, one of the first things I did was I went around role-playing as the hiatus as a physical character.
Let me break that down. You role-played online, like some people role-play inanimate objects. Like if you go on Twitter, every object at Disneyland has a Twitter feed. The Eye of Mara, the Main Street Cigar Store Indian, the birds that say mine over at Finding Nemo, the seagulls. So everything has a Twitter. You decided you were going to be a physical representation of Andrew
hiatus.
Hussey not doing anything.
Yeah.
The hiatus, the gigapause.
I started a Tumblr blog, and I also went on misspop.com, which is MSPA role-playing. You can choose any character you want, and it replicates the internet typing style when you type. So I went on both websites as the hiatus and basically just trolled people and messed with them. Because at this point, they were all so angry that the comic had been put in such a long hiatus. What would be worse than, like, the actual hiatus joining the chat and yelling at them?
So you would say, like, they would be like, wow, I can't believe that this hiatus is still going on. Hussey won't do any pages. And then you come on and you're like, that's right, he's not doing any pages. I am the hiatus.
Yep.
Pretty much.
But let it be known that I had a roleplay blog before that, and his is pretty much a joke on mine.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Mine's a
I
satire on
roleplayed the
his.
comic.
The comic.
Yes, the comic.
Like if the comic walked around.
If the axe walked around.
The what?
Because we were at
the axe.
Yeah, we were at
Okay.
the point in the comic where acts were only a couple weeks long, and he kept shifting between two sections. So I would play as those sections, going back and forth, yelling at each other, who gets to be next, who's the next update, who's going to be there, and it gets really complicated because they took a physical form.
Now it gets
Yeah.
complicated.
Well,
it wasn't complicated before.
My little roleplay blog last summer is now my own comic I've been making over a year now, so it gets complicated.
Needless to say. Now, I remember, Austin, you would come in and just be so happy that you would ruin people's day by literally becoming an internet troll, which is a character in the show, but you were actually the hiatus, the guy not doing anything.
Yeah.
So you were doing stuff based on the guy not doing stuff.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay, that actually made sense,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah.
And what happened when, Like, when did he decide to come back and do more pages?
He finally said, I'm going to do more pages. At the point, well, I've already ditched this blog for about 5 months now, because I just got tired of it. There was a point where the Gigapause was 6 months through. I'm like, I can't roleplay and mess with people anymore. He still roleplays his character, actually.
I still do my character. Because I have to. I've written in such a way that it has to respond to the comic. So every time the comic updates, I gotta do something.
Okay, all right.
But he finally did say, the news post, Giga unpause probably almost? Is that what it was
Giga
called?
almost unpause, probably.
Yeah. And this is the first time we'd ever heard from Hussey, because the only thing we've heard from in, like, the past 6 months was his wife sometimes, right? And that was
she would mess with us on the Reddit, and we got her so angry she won't talk to us anymore.
Yeah. She's pretty much left us. She even made a post saying that.
Yeah. I started Hussey Twitter, where I would screen cap Hussey's Twitter in case he said anything about the comic or news of when it's coming back. And it just got into all this drama of me getting into their privacy on their public Twitter page.
Right, but didn't he call you an ass clown?
No. His IPGD is one of Hussey's friends. They called me a clown lord for posting their stuff.
Not ass clown, it was clown lord.
Clown lord. I'm a clown lord.
This clown lord is retweeting all of our tweets.
Because I screen cap Hussey's horse jokes and put them on Tumblr.
So you're interacting with the guy and pissing him off, but that's what his bread and butter is interacting with you guys and pissing you off.
Yes.
So sorry, it's a taste of his own medicine. You're the pause and you're the actual comic.
Yes. He calls us all randos now. Everyone on Twitter who follows him who isn't a close friend is a rando. So,
but this is his own fault because he could email people. He doesn't have to be on Twitter.
He doesn't have to be on Twitter.
There's nothing private about being on Twitter.
He could privatize his Twitter and only accept his friends. But
sure he could.
But he has 80,000 followers.
It's because he's got a product to sell. It's all part of the shtick.
He'll tweet his friends saying, at IPGD, here, have some more teens for the day. They all just got this notification.
Yeah, and the thing is, all of Hussey's friends are privatized, so you can't see any of his conversation except for him. He's the only one of his friends that isn't privatized.
That must be maddening. It's just like, yeah, and then nothing, and then like, oh, I know, and then nothing.
It's even worse than that.
Yes.
It's like, what was, oh my, I'll have to bring it up. He did one just last night that was like, oh, the fans are going to love that, or, that guy's a real, I can't remember what it was.
Next episode. It's all right.
Shelby Cragg, I don't know why I say Craig. Shelby Cragg is a fan artist who Hussey is hired now, and she draws almost all the comic for him. She's privatized on Twitter, and he'll talk to her about plot spoilers, but since we only get to see half the conversation, he'll purposely write to her in a way that it's entertaining for us to only see half of it.
Well, that's the mark of a good showman. That's P.T. Barnum at its finest. Okay, we're going to wrap this up because we've been talking nearly an hour. We only got, I think, 3 or 4 things off of your massive list here.
We still haven't talked about Ryan North.
We haven't talked about Ryan North. We haven't talked about Bill Cosby or Charles Dutton or Octopimp or a million other things. But there's always another episode,
Whistles.
right?
Yeah.
The hours go by quick. They do.
Gigapause.com.
What is Gigapause.com?
It was a Homestuck Facebook-like social site. They started during the Gigapause, so fans could talk and sort of has something to do.
And I bet that lasted a very short time.
It was
that
huge.
Sounds like a lot of work.
They still have they're still paying for the servers up, and almost no one's on it anymore. I never use my personal account. I had one roleplay account on it that I still use today, and I just mess with people.
That seems to be a common theme here, is messing with people.
Here I'm not the comic, and we're not the comic. I'm actually Andrew Hussey. I have his profile. I took his Twitter bio and his picture, and I troll them as Andrew Hussey.
So you really are a clown lord.
Yes.
And
some people believe me.
Yeah, they really do. They really
They'll
believe
reply
Hussey.
back. I'll say some horse joke or some really insulting thing at them, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe Hussey commented on my post."
Oh, I believe it. There's a guy on Twitter that's Bill Murray. He has 80,000 followers, and his Twitter thing says, "I am not the real Bill Murray. I am just a guy. I am no way affiliated with Bill Murray." But people don't care. The last thing the average person wants is facts to ruin whatever it is they think they're into.
The red Taiwanese whale needs to make an appearance in the comics. That's all I'm saying, Hussey, if you're listening. Red Taiwanese whale.
All right, we're gonna end on that cryptic note, and you should write that down so you can explain it on the next episode. So, hey, we want to thank you for tuning in. We're gonna wrap up here. I am Jeff Tucker. I am accompanied by the Homestuck experts in my life. They are
Austin?
Luke?
And you can find them on Reddit, on Tumblr. What other social media?
I'm Become Imp on almost everything. Steam, Tumblr, Twitter. Not Twitter. Reddit. One word.
Become Imp. IMP.
And I'm Goont My Flies on almost every social website.
Goont My Fries, which is an Adventure Time reference. Why did you goont my fries? Right? Ice King?
Yeah.
Okay, you can find these guys on social media. You can also see them. I'll try to post some links on the Facebook page for 91 Reasons. I am Jeff Tucker. I am the voice you hear. We want to thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, go ahead and click the subscribe button because we'll be doing these Homestuck episodes periodically as the weeks go on. We'll also be at WonderCon in Anaheim next year and Comic-Con in the summer. We hit all the major conventions, Kamikaze, WonderCon, Comic-Con, Nuke the Fridge at Frankensons. We try to hit every kind of weird thing we can, so we'll let you know when we're going. So if you're listening and you want to say hi, you can say hi, or you can yell at Luke for pretending to be Andrew Hussey or Austin for pretending to be the hiatus, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. But hey, who knows? Whatever floats your boat, right? Here at 91 Reasons, we don't judge. We just put it on display for everyone to look. We're going to gather in close and say, leave us a review on iTunes, subscribe on iTunes, like us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at The Sixth Key, which is the title of my novel, which you can find on Amazon.com. The Sixth Key, The Infinite Backward, The Lost Station, all three available as a paperback or as a Kindle download for 99 cents. If you're a member of Amazon Prime, the download is free. It doesn't get better than that. You can get 10 years of my writing life for either free or under $3. It's the deal of the century. Have I plugged enough? I'm always plugging. Kristen Boaz says I'm always plugging, so I am always plugging. We thank you for listening, and the show you're listening to is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?